If you're a Christian woman navigating the dating world right now, let me ask you this. Has anyone ever labeled you like the Christian dating girl? Like you've gone on a date and they're like, oh yeah, that's the girl I met at church. Or, wow, you're really into that whole God thing. Does that feel like a veil you have to hide behind or something you have to say, well, yes, but maybe that makes you feel prude or generic, or you just don't want to come across too religious or too much. As a Christian woman, what are the values I should be holding? How should I present myself? Can I make a first move? Do I have to wait on him? Look, we don't want to be legalistic, but we do want to be identifiable. The Bible says that we will be known by our fruit, and I believe that's applicable in the dating sphere as well. You should want to be that Christian girl that the guy went on a date with. And today I'm going to bring on someone to help me have a conversation around this. She's known as the Honest Christian Girl on her podcast, Miss Chloe Mack. We're going to have a conversation around how to be that Christian girl the right way on your dates. Do I have to sit back and wait for him to make the move? Can I initiate a little bit? What should my boundaries look like? How many dates until he shows he's clearly interested? These are some of the topics we're going to hit today, and I hope that it encourages you, one, to not be afraid to embrace who you are completely within dating, and then two, to make your faith fun, but also known as you're starting to date someone. Chloe, welcome to the Dear Future Husband podcast.
Hi.
So nice to have another expectant mama on.
I know. Don't you feel like there's so many pregnant women right now?
Yes, and I love it so much.
It feels iconic to be pregnant in this time, to be honest.
Oh, I'm always like, who's pregnant while I'm pregnant? Who's birthing babies when I'm birthing babies?
No, okay. I know. That's how I felt like Hailey Bieber. I'm like, we're in good company.
We're aligning right now. All these pregnancies, these babies. It's a
God's
good time.
Building army of wild ones, for sure.
Well, I know the girls are like, okay, we're single girls listening to the dating topic. Stop talking about the fruits of the labor. Talk about the labor. We want to be married. In truth, this is how we connected. So I was talking to one of the listeners. She had some questions after an episode, and I was like, those are great questions. I should have tackled those in the conversation, and I didn't. And I was like, where can I send like even more resources? Because I feel like dating's one of those things where everyone's talking about it, but then not enough people are talking about it in depth at the same time. So I was searching. I found a video of you and your husband talking about dating. And I was like, you should listen to this. This is really good. So from that, I was like, Chloe, we should have a conversation. So I'm so glad you're here today. Do you want to introduce, I guess, yourself to me a little bit more even, but also to our listeners that are joining us?
Did that person get instantly married from my podcast?
You know, she just texted me. She had a dream about her husband. So there's something. There's something
happening. Movement's happening. Yes. Honestly, the fruit from your podcast, I would love to be seeing the testimonies coming. That'd be very satisfying. But I'm Chloe. I am Chloe Mack, my last name. I live in Huntington Beach, California, and I am in full-time ministry. I'm in a ministry that focuses on university students called Circuit Riders. And then I do content creation, which has been such a fun, surprising thing. I never thought I would. I never set out to do content creation, but I've always had a heart for women and just gathering women, discipling women. And it just, during the pandemic, spilled online. Doing like Bible studies through Zoom and stuff, and just started creating content. And so here I am now, just loving, just encouraging women and learning so much about our generation and Gen Z and what God is doing in raising up women. So that's kind of a little about me. I've been married for 8 years and love it. It's quite a long time. I'm actually 30 years old. A lot of people think I'm not. Maybe not though. Maybe that was presumptuous. Maybe think.
Well, you said Gen Z, so I was like, oh, is she Gen Z?
No, I'm not. I wish a little bit. They definitely are cooler. Like the millennials. You're a millennial. Yeah. We get the bad rap. We get a lot. They beat us down. Hardcore.
You know what? But I feel like it's that younger sibling thing where they're like, one day you're gonna be like, I looked up to you. Oh,
Totally. Why are they
maybe
listening? Why are they
wishful
listening to
thinking.
us?
Yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay, so you interact with a lot of university
Yeah,
age individuals. I'm assuming a lot of those individuals are in that like dating stage, especially the Christian dating stage. I think
yeah,
there are some terms we're all familiar with, again, but don't quite know or question. Maybe in the Gen Z age, like, is this still relevant? Like some of those I'm thinking of is like pursuit,
right.
courtship, purity.
Yeah,
Purity, people are even like, what does purity mean in 2024? I'm like, the same thing. Let's talk about
very
that.
true.
But 8 years. Okay, what has marriage been like for you guys so far?
Oh man. Definitely an adventure. Like if I could just sum it up, marriage is such an adventure. It's been so fun. I always heard I always heard like horror stories like it's so hard and so this yeah,
Mhm.
everything's hard in life. Like everything has a corner that's hard. But
True.
it's been mostly incredible. Derek and I met when we were on my 21st birthday actually. It was like a birthday present from God. And, he was visiting and I met him and it was just kind of like instant, we thought each other was cute and stuff, but yeah, I was play. I don't know if you've ever met girls like this, but it was like the cute guys, like you rebel against them. It's like if every girl likes that guy, then I'm not gonna. So
Mm,
I was suggesting him to all my friends and stuff, and like
anti
terrible,
FOMO.
totally. And then I ended up with him, and all my friends are like, "What is happening?" But yeah, marriage is fun. We're both in full time ministry. He does content creation and as well as preaches just all around the world to university students and high school students. And he really focuses on masculinity and raising up a generation of men because there's just such a need. Obviously, that this
Yeah.
generation is so fatherless, and
Mm,
but there's just such a need for men to rise up, especially in this time where femininity and feminism has taken over. We can like glance over the fact that we're not speaking to men anymore. They're just hearing about women all the time.
yeah, that's so important too, because if you mess up masculinity, then it's going to mess up femininity.
Oh,
We're going to be
100%.
in places we never should. Okay, back it up. I know there's questions. I'm thinking for the girls here. When he pursued you, though, when you finally stopped trying to push him on all your friends, what did pursuit look like? Because I think we talk about it and we say like, okay, a man should pursue you. He should be intentional. But a lot of girls today that are saying, hey, Chloe, there are guys that are not being masculine. There are guys that are too afraid to lead. I think even in the video, your husband talked about this a little bit. What did his pursuit for you look like, or what do you encourage people to look for in that pursuit to be like, hey, this is what
Yeah.
you want to be seeing, this is a good sign?
Yeah, I think nobody likes ambiguity.
Yeah.
Like nobody likes living in gray space. And that's all
Mm,
I had known before Derek with guys is a lot of hanging out times endlessly where you're like with a guy and you think we're into each other, but it's never said and we're endlessly hanging out and like sharing our hearts, pouring everything out to one another, but there's no commitment or
mm,
really, yeah, nothing said. And then the texting, I don't know, girls on here probably know what I'm talking about. The good morning text, the good night text, guys being like intentional, but not actually ever making anything solid. It's just
mhm.
like an endless get to know you train. I felt like I was on those constantly. And I actually was in an endless get to know you train with a guy for on and off for several years. And
Ooh.
literally we're talking, I'm thinking like I'm gonna probably marry this guy, but I can't tell you like enough. When you're in that ambiguity, you just do not feel super great. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of like what's gonna happen. And I remember it was the first time Derek and I really talked ever. We were at a gathering, listened to an amazing woman named Joy Dawson. We sat next to each other. We had a great time the whole night, just kind of making comments here and there. And then afterwards, he just walked up to me, like as he was leaving, and was like, "We need to hang out. Like, I want to hang out with you. Like, I want to like go out." And I literally was like, I've never had anyone straightforwardly, like, there was no texting season, no
Mhm.
like endless flirting times. It was just like we had a great little chit chat during
Yeah.
a sermon, and then he just straight up asked me. So
Yeah.
I was floored. I was floored. I ran like to my mom and I was like, this man, like, what the heck? I ghosted the guy I had talked to, which I don't recommend. Like, you should probably end things clearly. But there was nothing to
There
end
was
because
nothing to be ended if he wasn't intentional.
exactly. So I ghosted that guy. And yeah, then Derek and I started intentionally hanging out, and he was very, very straightforward. Just
Yeah.
right from the start, like, you are beautiful, like, you look
Mhm.
amazing. Just no, I never was left with like, how does this guy feel about me, or what are his intentions?
Yeah. I feel
Yeah.
like our husbands should hang out. They sound like two peas in a pod there because I was also like, I'm me? I'm pretty. You want to date? Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say yes before you change your mind.
No,
But
totally. It's the
yeah.
most attractive thing, just like straightforwardness.
Yes. That
Yes.
clarity is so amazing. And I love what you're saying about when someone's straightforward, they also can be complimentary and they can open up, and you're not wondering, like, okay, well, are they just wooing me? Are they good with words?
Yes.
Because when their actions meet expectation, and it's like,
Yes.
oh, well, these are the things I want to hear, but they're following it up with, hey, I'm saying this because I'm
Right.
doing this because it's when we don't have that bridge, I think, is where we get all messy in dating. So if there's a girl that's in where you were
Yeah.
with, we're in the texting, we're in the good mornings. I like low key love getting the good morning beautiful text, but I also want to hear, hey, this is my girlfriend. How
Right.
long how long should there be an allowance for them to catch up? Like,
Like,
cuz
I think,
it's a little daunting, but also at the same time I'm like, if he's going to lead you well,
right.
he's going to be ready to lead.
100%. Like, listen, you're signing up for somebody to actually lead you the rest of your life. And so if he can't lead you in just a simple ask out to Chipotle, even wherever, you know, if he can't lead you in just the first steps, right? Then, like, where are we going the rest of our lives?
If
And
he
that might
can't
be
say,
too harsh.
do you want guac? He can't say, well, do you want to marry me?
Exactly. Um, But I think there absolutely is allowance, I think, for, a season, a short season, like a few, like a month or two, of if you're around each other, you're flirting, you're kind of like, getting to know each other, like group settings, or those are all great. And then, but there has to come a moment, and in your heart as a girl, when you lose steam. Like when you've reached
Mhm.
the end and you're like, I feel stressed by this person, I feel no peace, I need to find out how he feels about me. Like, that's when like, it's either time to cut and run, or, be straightforward with the guy, which I've never done. I don't know what that's like to do that. Maybe God has that for some women. Some guys just need a little kick in the buns, maybe. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think there can be a short season, but once you reach that place where you can't take it anymore, you need to be done.
Yeah, or just have the conversations. We're so scared of having conversations
Yeah.
today.
Okay, do you think, yeah. I want to hear your opinion. I'm not interviewing you, but would would you encourage girls, like, if you're in that place of ambiguity, okay? Do you ever encourage them, like, you should have a conversation and just be like, where are we at? What's happening?
Yeah. I mean, here's my thing. I always will lean on the side of you shouldn't have to like drag his hand because
Yeah.
once you start doing that, you're going to keep doing that. There, I think you're not full on like dragging someone if you just say, hey, this is where I'm at. Like, are you there too? Especially if it's like one time. But like if you're having to initiate, men should be able to be initiators. So I think there's just like kind of like you said, you can trust your heart. You know when you're feeling fatigued, you
Yeah.
know when you're feeling burnout. You also know when you feel like a mom rather than someone being pursued.
100%.
So I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna go that route, maybe make sure you're really keen on your discernment, or you have someone else that's a trusted voice. You can be like, hey, this is what's going on, because the reason I err to don't do it is because it's so easy for us women to see potential or to make
Yeah.
excuses. And then once our emotions are attached, like, I'll just give him another month. 3 months in, I've gotten all these good morning
Totally.
texts, and like my heart's already tied. it's going to be a lot easier to be blinded. But
100%.
that's just me.
No,
Also,
that's a word right there. You don't want to be some guy's mom, too. That is 100% true.
no.
No.
Being a mom is awesome, but to
But
your
not
kid.
to a full-grown man.
Yeah. You got to go through the baby stages. It's, Okay, I want to ask you this. So, getting to that point of pre-pursuing, we're just like going backwards here. We talked about
Yeah.
babies, marriage, now dating. Now pre pre-interest. This is actually why I came to your video, because I think the question the girl had was she was in that kind of dabbling stage where someone was interested, she wasn't, and then it was like, well, maybe I should be, and there was like all the cues, but then like intentionality ship has sailed and it was confusing. So she was like, what do I do? And I was like, oh, let's see. So should women put themselves out there? You and your
Oh,
husband talked a little bit about this. It was so
yeah.
funny. I'm just gonna say, go watch that video, guys, if you really want to see that. It's so cute watching y'all interact. But what are your and y'all's
Okay.
thoughts on women
Yes.
doing so?
I am a big proponent, believer of women putting themselves out there, meaning this. There
Yeah,
is
please
a little
clarify.
bit, I'd say, in the church. Okay. We have an issue. We are 80% women. Okay. That's a
Mm.
large quantity of women. That's not a huge quantity of men. Okay. And a lot of women, it's desire, it's burning on their heart. They want marriage, they want to start a family. And they have even maybe all these amazing prophetic promises from God in their
Mhm.
journals. And it's just like any other promise God gives us, is like if God was to tell you right now, like, you're going to be an incredible worship leader, but you never went and learned piano. You never tried to sing one time and you're waiting for it to happen. It's really unrealistic. And so I do think when God gives this promise, like, hey, there's going to be a man, you're going to have a family, we have to not be like Rapunzel waiting for our Mr. Man to come find us if he can't even see us. And so I think there has to be, this is where I hear too much sometimes sassitude in women. Like, I'm going to be pursued. He's going to find me. All these things. It's like, yes, that's all right. But, sister, you got to go where the men are. And you have to maybe even become friends with some guys, shake some hands pleasantly. I had
Hands,
a
not
girl.
other things.
Yes. I had a girl DM me. I had one time talked about how I was like in a sundress season where I was challenging myself to be like extra feminine. And I was borrowing all my friends' clothes and just kind of like having a glow up. And there was just something too about like taking care of myself, being in an environment where there's godly men and being friendly, which I just felt like helped the scenario rather than waiting in the corner with my promise journal hoping to be. But I think there's a limit. There's a limit. There's a putting yourself out there and making
Yeah.
friends, and you can never have enough awesome guy friends when you're single that are more like brother vibes. um
Good clarity. Good clarity.
I'm putting so many disclaimers on things that are like brothers and don't take your heart and crush it.
Yeah.
There's a clear line of being thirsty, and that's the only term I've got here, of being overdoing it.
Yeah.
Really, because guys can sense that.
Yeah.
And it comes off needy. It comes off
Pick
just,
me. Isn't that a thing?
yeah, it gives the ick. It's just, they're not looking for that. They're looking for a woman with confidence and
Mhm.
independence that knows where she's going, and that doesn't look like hanging on, every guy's shoulders and then showing off the wrong things. I think the world has so formed us women to going, this is what men want. It's
Yeah.
sexual. It's nasty. It's just giving everything instantaneously. And I find that's just not it, man. And
Mhm.
guys are looking for so much more. Godly men, the men you actually want, they're not even going to look your way if you're giving all of that away. They're looking for something that's legacy building
Yeah.
and long lasting.
Yeah. And look, the wrong kind of attention will go to those things, but that doesn't mean that's what a man's looking for. Had a really great episode with Taya Kyle, and she shared some really great stuff on that I can't do justice. So listen to that episode next if you're interested around like that topic. But yeah, I hate even the terminology of like putting yourselves out there and guys only want one thing. Like those are just so snippets of like what we're trying to talk about, but you nailed it. You should be able to show up as yourself, as the woman
Yeah.
you represent. So that woman is not going to be timid. She's not going to be fearful for believing what she's writing down in that journal. Like, hey, big proponent of praying, believing, asking. But that takes that showing up. And I don't think that has to be showing yourself or showing off, but it does need to be, I'm confident in who I am and in what I'm looking for. And if I'm looking for it, I'm going to act like it's out there. I'm going to
Yeah.
be ready. I'm going to be expectant. An expectant woman isn't like, maybe he'll come, or like, I can't talk to him. No, she's like, cool. You the one? No? Okay.
When Derek asked me to hang out or go out, whatever, when he asked me, he left me on red for like a week and a half. And I was like, what's happened to this straightforward person? And so we were going on a outreach where we were going door to door and inviting people to this evangelistic event. And I was tormented by love. I just instantly fell in love with Derek. I literally started losing weight. I just like, hey, I was overcome. And so I went to the leadership and I was like, listen, this guy asked me out. I don't know why he's being slow to like nailing down the deal. And I need to find out. So would you pair me with him on our evangelistic journey? And just let's just see what happens. And today, if it's a terrible day and I find out he's a passive weirdo, it's over. And so the leadership helped me. They paired me with him and we went door to door. And he was moving to New Zealand and he shared his heart. He's like, I really want to take you out, but I got nervous because I'm moving away and I could see this being really serious. And it was just like super awesome. But all to say,
so he voiced it. Okay.
If I did not ask the leadership, like, hey, there's this amazing guy. Put me in his court, man. Let's just see what happens. A little Ruth moment. I don't think we would be together today, maybe. So I would say as well, like women who are putting themselves out there, you can ask godly people, like, hey, help me out. Is there anybody I should be getting to know? Like,
yeah.
Should I be going anywhere? I think some women like just are in communities that have no on fire godly men and they might need to go to like a summer school somewhere else or on a missions trip where there are. So when I say like put yourself out there, I'm not just like at the grocery store walking up to people. Put yourself in environments where other men have that same DNA you have.
Yeah.
And making friends with them.
Which is important. Yeah. You want to make sure you're not just like throwing it out there. Because you talked about this in the video too, is not coercing it. And I think there is such a fine line, because if you got paired with Derek and then like every question was like trying to show off how good you were, or be like, oh, you should go to New Zealand, you should come to this because that's what I'm, you know what I mean? Like there is such a fine line. But yeah, how do we know that? How do we know where the fine line is?
I think where you want at the end of the day to feel like you have a God story. I think you want God in control, and you want to feel like on your wedding day, like, I can't believe God gave me this person. You don't want to be there on that day and be like, I can't believe I coerced this man into the palms of my hands, like you really want to let God lead. And so I think in every step of the way, submission to the Lord's voice and leadership. Yeah. And that doesn't mean 50 prophetic words, but I think it's following the wisdom of God, following peace in your spirit. Every time I was with a guy that wasn't it, I never had peace. Derek was the first person I actually felt overwhelming peace with. And so I think you're looking for those markers. And then if you don't have them, you're not forcing something to happen.
Yeah.
Like you're saying.
Yeah. And I think you can tell that as well. I feel like that's a common thread we keep talking about is like
Yeah.
when we're honest with ourselves and we are submitted to God and giving Him that allowance and others, their trusted voices to speak into it, we'll
Yeah.
have those little flags as like direction points if we're honest with it. This is funny as you're talking. Because I was wondering, I was like, did I do any of this? Did I go? Did I put myself out there in any way? Because I'm a little bit more reserved and
Yeah.
introvert, and Arden is like go getter, leader, 6'3". Here I am, man. But when we were dating, we had talked about, we're dating with the intent to marry, and the more serious we got, the
Yeah.
more that became a reality. And I remember we were, oh my gosh, it was like fantasy basketball or something where I'm like, fun, but not like I know what I'm talking about. And I think this is funny. I don't think I've shared this story yet with the girls, but it was something like, oh, yeah, if I win, you got to propose by whatever, by the end of the year. Like, because we had talked about it, right? It wasn't completely out of thin air.
Right, right,
I
right.
wasn't actually like doing research of like, how do I win this fantasy bracket? How do I make it happen? But for me, that was like, okay, I'm putting myself out there a little bit more than I normally would. But also, I felt the safety as a woman where because I knew what his intentions were. We had had communications, right? Like Derek had already said, I want to go
Right.
out with you. I feel like when we're following up on something and almost like giving them cues, like, hey, you've said this and
Yes.
I want you to follow up on it. That's also a good determination rather than, oh, I just saw this really cute guy and I'm going to go to my friend's house and make her invite this guy. And then it's going to, like, am I going to IG stalk
Yes.
him? We can know, but I really like that model. And I think that's how I would, at least if I was talking to a close friend, advise them. It's like, hey, if this guy seems like good fruit, he's initiated something, it's okay to follow up on it, maybe like a few times or
Yeah.
like just even have fun with him. Like talking to Art, I was like, yeah, like we've talked about engagement. I want you to propose. I'm ready to marry you.
No, 100%. Derek, similarly, Derek and I, after a few dates, he was really in contemplation. He had been in ministry for several years living in New Zealand. So when I met him, he was just visiting to renew his visa.
Oh,
And
wow.
it was after like our third or fourth date. We were driving and he was like, I just really need to hear God about New Zealand. Like, I'm not sure we could do long distance. And he's like, I just don't know like what reasons I would stay here. And I remember to be like, I have a pretty good reason you could stay here.
Yeah.
Just like what you're saying, just like you're not overdoing it, but you are just giving a little bit like meeting their effort with a little bit of like, I enjoy this. And I think
Mhm.
sometimes girls in their overdoing it of pursuit, like they forget like the guy is also just a boy learning to be a
Yeah.
man. And he might need a little smile and a little flirt every once in a while. Just be like, you're doing good. Keep it coming.
Uh-huh.
I like the efforts.
What great motivation for men too. I feel like they're kind of like
Yes.
dogs, like just scratching behind the ear and they're like, "Oh, okay. Okay."
And they just keep coming. They keep turn it up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. Okay, I think our husbands are aligned on this also too, but if you are in that dating stage, because I heard your husband mention something, my husband says this all the time, is don't do the pursuit in the dating stage completely verbal. Like, don't just do the texting, don't just do
Yes.
the DMing, like, actually
Yes.
have concrete times together so you get to see them in person and so forth. So much so that my husband, we like texted for one day and he's like, okay, and I'll call you. And I was like, okay. When am I going to hear from you again? Like, so he went so millennial to so old school, which I really love. And I feel like it was intentional with our story. But what do you guys see, especially with
Yeah.
dealing with a younger generation where everything is social? We almost have to work harder to like stay
Yeah.
off of social media so we're not interacting with them so
Yeah.
much. Why do you say,
Yeah.
why do y'all
Everything
say
is so social. Literally, just like side note, I feel like every post I made before I was dating Derek was like with intention of like some guy will see this and think I'm cute. Like,
that?
you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, social media really is when you're single for the mingling. But I would say this generation, there's a lot of DMings, there's a lot of texting. Everybody's afraid to FaceTime. Everybody's afraid to hop on a phone call. And then like getting in person is like the scariest thing possible. And what I see and what I even experienced myself is when you dive in with somebody over like texting, not in person. And it's much easier to ask questions and share your heart over a text, like spilling it all out. And then I would find when I would get with the person, it was like we had this depth online that was like so huge. And then in person, it was like, why are we awkward? Why are we're not jiving the same way? And I feel like I gave you so much of my heart and I'm so invested in this. And so I think you want a man to lead you in real life and get to know you in real life. And that is much harder, like for a man to look in your eyes and ask you real deep questions and intentional questions. And but when you have that in person, it's a different type of connection than online. I just feel like it's way easier to get your heart broken. And so I've always encouraged girls, when there's nothing wrong with starting out, you know, a little texting here and there. But I've encouraged girls, like, if you feel like you're in that place, to be like, hey, would you want to FaceTime? And just see if they're interested. And if not, like, dip out. You don't want to be with the Cyberman. You want to, you want real interaction. So that's what I would say. I also think that I've seen, like, just being raw and real when things are online and or just in the texting world, they just can quickly turn sexual and for no reason. And that just doesn't happen, on your first date at Chipotle. It's also just a good safety guard of like just being wise and not falling into, old unsaved people habits of just this is what a guy would want me to kind of flirt and say when you would never say those things out loud.
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah.
I'd like to thank today's sponsor, Chipotle.
Maybe it's a craving
for helping singles find dating space. Yeah, no, that's so true. And if you think about like old school dating, there was so much intentionality.
Yes.
And like there's just not room to be awkward or to beat around the bush because it's like I'm here. We're here. What's the point in waiting? And there's something to be said about long distance. We did long distance for a long time, but there was creativity, there was FaceTime, there was intentional planning. So I think, move it offline as soon as possible.
Yes.
And, just give legs to your relationship. Like actually see them interact. It's a lot easier to put on a face behind a screen. And, there's nothing wrong with starting out there, of course. And even today, like if my husband and I have a fight, we always want to do that face to face. We want to see each other's countenance. We want to hear each other's tone. There's sometimes where like we're just messy and I'll text him. I'm like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm still going to go to him later and get that face value. But, sometimes it is, hey, we have to start with the text. We're going to start there, but that's not where we're going to end.
No.
So it's just, I hope that shows another side of it too, of like why we should.
Why we don't want Cyberman. We want real connection. And I think what you said is so true as well. You get to know somebody when you see them interacting with other people, and that can only happen in person. And so I remember going out with Derek, and he's like old dad vibes. Like he just talks to everybody. He wants to know the waiter's favorite football team and all that. I would have never known those things about him. Like, oh wow, he's such a good people person. If we're just endlessly texting, or at the same time, you can get in person and be like, I have the major ick. Like, what is happening? Yeah. And you wouldn't have had that, online.
You can't really see personality over text either.
No, you can't.
Like maybe a funny joke. I'm funnier over text than I am in person. I'm like, I'm a lot of things, but funny is not really my nature, and that's fine. My husband doesn't need that. He's funny. But you just get to see a more 3D version of someone. And clarity wise, we're not saying, text them and then as soon as you can meet up and go over to their house.
Totally.
No. Because like that's another way to get it messy.
You might look crazy.
Okay, I want to wrap up on one thing.
Yeah.
So this girl is looking for the guy that's going to pursue her. But then maybe now she's like, well, who do I want to pursue me? What should our standards be? And then what should they not be?
Yes. I can only talk from myself, and not everybody I found always agrees with me, but this is how, I don't know, God just has led me in my life. Is my parents are incredible people. My dad's passed away now, but I grew
Mhm.
up watching one of the most insane marriages. My mom was chronically ill my whole
Mhm.
upbringing, and seasons of that was bedridden. And both my parents were in ministry full time. My dad started our ministry that we're in now, but I saw two things. One was I saw my dad lay his life down for my mom in her sickness,
Wow.
and he was just so giving. And my word, I can't explain. He would just go out and bring her loads of new clothes when she was down and sick, and everything was about making my mom feel better and alive and remembering why she was on the planet when she was down, and contending for her healing, which she ended up getting, which is
Oh,
another
praise
incredible
God.
story. So I watched a husband figure lay everything down and never complain about caretaking when it was really hard. Just generous love and raising us. There's four of us, raising all of us too, and doing things that normally dads wouldn't do, you know.
Yeah, not easy for a man. Goodness,
No,
that's
not easy.
amazing.
So I saw this example of love. And then as well, my parents being in ministry together was really unique because my dad loved my mom's involvement. He was a pastor kind of in the beginning phases of my life, and he always, was pushing my mom to step out and do things. She started a Bible study. My dad pushed her to start this Bible study, and it quickly grew to 100 women in her living room, all from this university nearby. And without like my dad going like, no, your voice matters,
Yeah.
what you carry matters, and we're a team. And he would watch us kids while she did the Bible study, and when she needed a message prep, and clean the house when she was super sick afterwards. And I would see him preach and bring her up on stage and, have her
Love
share and
that.
have her do her testimony. He just was always pushing her in her God given calling. And so to me, marriage was never just this romantic storyline. It was about a team coming together that could
Yeah.
change the world. Like, how
Mm.
big do you want your legacy to be?
Yes.
And if you get a team that's insane, you can build something incredible. Another example I had being with YWAM Youth with a Mission was the founders, Lauren and Darlene Cunningham, and reading their books of how they founded this missions base, all by living by faith, but the sacrifice they made together, going on missions trips together, being equally invested in the
Yeah.
word of the Lord together, just always inspired me. I never wanted to be left out of the mission with a man. I wanted to do something together. That doesn't mean we had to have like the same roles. We don't. But I think I was looking, when I was looking for my future husband, I said I was always looking, who's going to change the world? Who could I change the world with? Like, how could we do it together? And then of course all the other things, like, is he attractive? Is he fun? Are we like jiving and having a good time? But that was number one. And I was so wild about it. This is where things got too much. I was so wild about it that I was like, I don't give a rip what the guy looks like. But I feel like
Mhm.
Gen Z needs a little bit more of this, because the millennials, we had it so easy. Like, guys were wearing basketball shorts and not brushing their hair, and we thought they were super cute. Now we have like TikTok and TikTok men influencers that are all fashionable and really cool. Not every guy, especially not every man of God, is going to be like that. Okay. Like, they're not all shampoo models. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if that's your number one, take it back to like number three or four. Or be like, I'm gonna glow up a man. Like,
Yeah.
take it upon yourself to
It's
take
so
this up.
fun to dress your husband. Don't even worry if he can't dress yet.
Period. Derek wore basketball shorts freaking all the
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
girls were always like, what's happening? I'm like, we'll go to Zara, don't
Jordan
worry.
showed up in like tennis shoes to our first date, and I'm wearing heels, and I literally was like, okay, it's all
Right.
right.
Just
It's all
okay,
right.
we'll work on that.
It's
But
okay.
it's just not the number one priority. For
Yeah.
me, it wasn't. And I really wanted to feel like, say I got taken out. I could never do anything in my life. I'm paralyzed or something crazy. I wanted to say, if whatever my husband's mission is, that I felt so deeply invested in my heart in it that if I never did anything and I was just attached to another man's calling, that I would be really proud of that and really
Mhm.
excited about that. So, anyway, looking for a man with vision.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be ministry, but a man with godly vision. That's like Book of Acts, wants to live a wild life. If they're in business, they still want to live the Book of Acts. If they're, entrepreneur, they're still living the Book of Acts. I think that sets you up for the funnest life
Yeah.
possible. Yeah. Long answer, long winded.
Oh no, I loved every second of it. It gives us something to look forward to, not just a list, but an actual vision. I was thinking
Yeah.
about this last night as I was thinking about our podcast, and I was just thinking our standards should be about principle rather than profit. Like it
That's
shouldn't
fire.
be I want a man that's going to treat me well so he can get me gifts. Like, I'm sure your mom never thought, okay, well, I'm going
No.
to do this. And then my husband's going to bring me a lot of clothes. And she was like, no, I want a man that's going to live by a principle of raising family. Yes, there's so many beautiful, like, gifts. It's just like the relationship with God. There's so many beautiful gifts that come with serving God, but we don't serve to receive. Like, we serve to be in line with his will, on mission with what he's called us to. And so when we look at our marriage, I'm going to be yoked to a man that is on a principle of living a standard. He's on a principle of being a man of God, of having that integrity. Everything you're saying, and
Yeah.
not the profit of, well, if he's going to look a certain way, then I get to have the hot husband. If he's going to make a certain
Yeah.
amount of money, we get to have this house. And I think it's even sweeter, like when all the other things work out. Like I would think of Arden and I's first house to like the homes we've made together with our bare hands. And so,
Wow.
yeah, it's just, I feel like when you start with a vision, there's so much more blessing that comes down the road. That's just like an added bonus.
Mm.
Whereas if you go into it of, well, this is my standards, he has to be 6'3". I mean, that I'm super grateful for that, but he has to be this, then you're more amped to be let down. So why don't we
Yeah.
flip it? Why don't we just like get the standards really right, and then the good things will come. We'll dress him. We'll get him on the basketball pants. We'll get him on the shampoo model outfit. Um, but yeah, stewarding that down to and boiling to what really matters. And
Yeah.
also, I even think about it this way. I've never thought about it this way. And tell me if this makes any sense to you. But I feel like we talk about so much of, well, yes, we want to be married, but also don't make that an idol. I think if you actually do have a healthy view, like that vision you had of, I saw my parents do this. When I get married, I want it to be similar in this way. It helps you understand yourself better, even if you never get married. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying you have to see marriage to see yourself, but I'm saying when we naturally, innately think of romance or we see someone attractive, and like that's just naturally part of our wiring. So if we can go ahead and tune that to, but I'm not going to settle unless it's this, it helps you know yourself so much better. You don't
Yes.
go to places the same way, you don't act differently. So I love that you're like, this is what I want. I'm going to know that like from a young age. I'm sure you
Yeah.
made some better decisions than I did in high school because of that.
No, you know what though? I was such a loser. People are always like that because Derek was my first like longtime boyfriend. Nobody ever asked me out. So maybe there's girls listening, like, it's okay. Nobody ever
Mhm.
asked me out in high school. I was that weird Christian girl. And, there were definitely weirdos that talked to me and stuff. They were strange. I don't know if that's okay to say. That's probably politically not correct. But yeah.
Nothing is anymore. But
That's
nothing's
true.
correct. There's only incorrect. So be the weird girl and
Yes.
be okay with being the weird girl because you kind of get out of the way of all the other crap.
100%. 100%. Be 100% the weird girl, living on fire, living with a vision bigger than yourself. And
Mhm.
even if you don't get asked out all the time, it's going to attract that one guy, probably, that's living in the same manner. And
Yeah.
that's better than messing around with 20, weird. faced strange guys that aren't looking for the same thing as you. It's been so interesting when I meet these couples or these older couples even, how the women will live with this angst and they'll express it that all they really want is their man to be a godly man or on fire. And I even remember being on an airplane one time, and I think it was like the Beverly Housewives, I don't even know, Desperate Housewives, whoever they were. It was a commercial for it. And one of the women was just crying at this restaurant dramatically, like they do. And she was just like, I just want my husband to be a man of God. And I think all the things we think that will make us happy at the end of the day, they really don't matter if God is not at the center of it. And when you attach yourself to a man, you're attaching yourself to be led the rest of your life, for your family to be led. And you really, really want that at the center. And if all the other things come, like you're saying, that's bonus. Right. But at the same time, when they don't come, like Derek and I live radical lives financially by faith, all sorts of stuff. We've lived in really crazy bad scenarios. But when God is at the center, there's just peace in every type of circumstance that comes your way, rather than an angst, which is a terrible thing to live with. Yeah.
That's so true. I think that's a beautiful way to paint the vision for your marriage. And that really does start in the beginning of singleness and leads into dating. So ladies listening, like if you feel like all you have is a vision, that's fantastic. Maybe you don't need all the other stuff, but you need that keen vision to get to where you want to be, and you need the faith to see it through. So I hope that this has really encouraged you. Chloe, thank you so much for coming on. How can people connect with you if they're in the Huntington area and they want to connect with the university, or they want to watch your content online?
Okay, many ways. I want to end with this before I go there, though. Okay. If you are a girl and you feel hopeless and you're like sad girl listening to this, get your chin up, girl. Like, God's got you. God does a lot of sovereign things, and it's all going to work out better than you're thinking. I can guarantee it. And you're far more beautiful than you think you are. And you're far more special, favored, and anointed than you're imagining. And you just need to lean into Jesus. So don't be discouraged leaving this, please.
Yes.
But find me on social media, Chloe and Mack on Instagram. I have the Honest Christian Girl podcast on my YouTube. That's relaunching. I took a little hiatus. Circuit Riders, and it's in Huntington Beach. We have our Monday night services, and then we do our tour across America, Europe, Africa. Ooh. If you're out there, we go to universities, hundreds and hundreds of them, all across there. You can check us out, circuitriders.com, if you want to sign up or come to an event. But super. This has been so fun. What a fun topic to talk about.
So fun. And I was thinking about this earlier. We were talking about, okay, just let it be minimal online and then connect in person. I'm like, we were having fun online, but I've had even more fun with you hanging out virtually. So that's my testament to, if you're dating and you're in the DMs, get out of the DMs.
Get out the DMs.
I've had so much fun. Thank you for sharing everything with our listeners.
No, thank you so much for having me. Hope all you guys find your man. Yeah. Let your man find you.
Pray it in.
Pray it in. Store it up.
Okay, ladies, I hope you are walking away fully confident for your next date. Whether it's on the calendar yet or not, you're still waiting. Maybe you actually know how you want to approach this guy now. But let me know, because I love hearing from you. What stood out to you the most in this episode? You can leave a comment below so we can hear from you, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next conversation. We have episodes every Thursday, and I cannot wait to see you then.